It's all downhill from here. 1 week of semifinals remains, and we'll recap some of the biggest numbers and performances from week 3 of competition today on Inside the Leaderboard. Hey everyone, Tommy Marquez here with a week 3 recap episode of Inside the Leaderboard presented by Trifecta, the official meal delivery partner of CrossFit. We've only got 1 week of semifinals left, and even though we're barreling towards the finish, let's look back a little bit because the competition at the Granite Games and Far East provided us some significant statistics. So let's dive in. Our first number this week is 38.5. That's the percentage of games qualifiers so far this season that are 24 years old or younger. In total, there are 10 women qualifiers and 10 men qualifiers already through 3 weeks that are in that age range. Compare that to last season at the Games, when there were 10 women and 9 men total in the Games field in this range, and we've already surpassed that number of young guns in the Games field this year, and we still have 24 invites to dole out this upcoming weekend. A lot of attention last season was given to the young women making waves in the sport, but there's been a significant emergence of young male athletes breaking through to the Games, and the numbers speak for themselves that the youth movement from last season is moving again at full force in 2022. As far as surprises go, we got maybe our biggest one this past weekend in the Far East, which is why our next number is 18. That was the seed of Nasser Alruwayeh to start the competition, making him the lowest seeded athlete yet to qualify for the Games out of semifinals this season. Nasser finished the quarterfinals in Asia 25th overall, and remember, only 30 qualify for semifinals. By the time he stepped onto the competition floor in South Korea, he was the 18th seeded athlete based on his result, and he then proceeded to shock everyone by never sitting outside of a qualifying position all weekend long. He finished the first workout in second behind Roman Krenikov, then tied Roman for the win in the second event that was the lifting complex. And it was all downhill for Nasser in becoming the first athlete from Kuwait to qualify for the Games under this semifinal system. Our final number focuses on the hotly contested women's competition at the Granite Games this past weekend, and it's 6.16, repeating for all my math lovers out there. That was the average finish of Kloie Wilson at the Granite Games that somehow only earned her a 6th place finish and a place in the last chance qualifier, and amazingly enough, didn't get her a Games invite. As tough as it may be, it's the second year in a row that Wilson ends up on the outside of the bubble, and it speaks to just how good the qualifiers were from the Granite Games this weekend. I kept looking at the leaderboard, honestly, and the fact that Kloie never finished an event lower than 7th, yet didn't qualify, just didn't compute in my brain, and I think her performance deserves a closer look. So let's hit depth on that number, because typically speaking, during the regionals era, if an athlete had an average finish of 10th or higher throughout the entirety of the weekend, that usually meant they got a ticket to the Games. But again, this is a new system, a new semifinal setup, and a new batch of athletes to compete with. So using Kloie's average finish this past weekend and comparing it to that of the other semifinals with 5 allocated game spots across the past 2 years, you can see that she has nothing to be ashamed of in her performance. Last season, her average would have qualified her at every single semifinal event, including the West Coast Classic where she competed at last year, and she would have won the Atlas Games. She would have qualified out of the MAC this year and Syndicate Crown, and in fact, the only other time she wouldn't have qualified would have been the Lowlands Throwdown earlier this season, meaning up until this point, an average finish of a shade over 6th place would have qualified Kloie Wilson 80% of the time so far, and I imagine that number will rise after week 4. The nature of our sport is that there are really only a handful of touch points in the season where athletes get to put out all of their hard work in the gym to the test in hopes of making their goals a reality. And unlike other sports, they don't have the dozens of opportunities to compete throughout a year. That also means that in spite of everything that's put in and executing in a manner that would otherwise get the job done, you could still come up short. And such was the case this past weekend in Minnesota, and honestly, sometimes that's just sports. I bring this up only to highlight just how good Kloie Wilson was this past weekend in context, and really how good the entire qualifying field from the Granite Games were on the women's side. They deserve all the credit in the world for the performance that they put forth, and numerically, I just wanted to show my appreciation. That's going to do it for this edition of Inside the Leaderboard, presented by Trifecta, the official meal delivery partner of CrossFit. The first 4 episodes of Miles to Madison are out now. To get caught up on those before week 4 semifinals kicks off, head over to the CrossFit Games YouTube. We got 3 semifinals closing things out this weekend. We've got the Strength in Depth, Copa Sur, and the Atlas Games all taking place this weekend. To catch the live streams, head on over to games.crossfit.com. Best of luck to all the athletes competing in week 4, and until next week, I'll see you on the leaderboard.